Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blues Talk. We're again, John, Dave and myself are going to look back over Leinster's emphatic victory against Wasps last Sunday night, all the other Heineken or European Cup action, and look forward to our game against Cass at the weekend. So boys, 25-20, but I actually didn't think that game was ever in doubt.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't have been so confident as you, Jason.
Me neither.
I thought going into the game, I was convinced that we were the better team, despite the fact that we had what would not be considered a first choice selection out. I still was convinced that we were stronger and we would be the better team. The question was, would we be able to? We had it in us to win. The question was, would we be able to get it out from inside us and onto the pitch? In the first half, we didn't. Okay, we made a number of mistakes. There was an intercept try, which is, one intercept try a season is, okay, two is becoming a habit. So I think it's time to cut that out. But there was an intercept try. Christian Wade scored what in the world of football they'd call a worldie. I think he would have scored that against anyone, no matter who he was playing. But we were poor in the first half. We made basic mistakes. We made mistakes at our set piece. We made mistakes in our handling. We didn't, as they say, resource the rucks enough.
But we never we attacked with so much pace, power, aggression. Anytime we took the ball, we made 20, 30, 40 metres when we ran at them. All they did was just react to our mistakes. But they didn't look like they were ever going to score a try made out of their own creativity.
No, I agree with you, but that is a legit. I agree with you entirely.
Like, it reminded me.
Having said that, that's a legitimate.
It reminded me of the match against Exeter a couple of seasons ago. They were hanging on by their fingernails and their coattails, and once we turned around the second half, the wind was in our favour and it was game over.
I mean, that's true, but that's a legitimate way of playing the game. You can be a team that reacts, and the other side of that is, for all the 40 and 30 and 40 and 50 and all the pace we were attacking with, and again I agree with you, we were carrying the ball hard and we were carrying it ferociously. It doesn't matter a damn how hard you carry it if there's nobody there to secure the next phase. And in the first half, that was a problem. We were very, very sloppy in terms of our ball retention, both in the hand and on the ground.
Well, also you got to play to your strengths, and I think we said it a couple of weeks ago about one of the Italian teams, probably Zebre. That they're a spoiling team. They have to. They don't really have any options. They don't have the creativity to be anything else. If you look at the Wasps team, they've got some pace on the wing, as we discovered, but they're just a crowd of big lads. Like the back five of their pack. If Haskell had been there, God, the back five of their pack are just enormous. Launchbury and Bradley Davis are two huge, powerful guys. The number 6, Ashley Johnson. Yeah. Jesus, it's like a car. It must be been like in a car crash hitting that guy. If he got a bit of speed up, and the other lad, Nathan, who the hell are they? Nathan Hughes. He's a huge unit as well. So that's what they have going for them, and the fact that we can move them about is what we have going for us, and that's the way we have to play the game against big, boshy French and English teams. We've got to be able to
use our mobility,
and what's more, run them around a lot, and in the last 20 use our creativity and our bench. But
now in the second half,
and our pace, our fitness is
a lot of the problems that weren't addressed. A lot of the problems that became apparent as the first half were addressed at half time, in fairness. Whether it was Matt, whether it was Jamie, but whatever, when we came out in that second half, we were retaining the ball at the ruck. We were making less mistakes at set piece, although our line-out wasn't perfect, and our handling was a lot better, although again it wasn't perfect. But I mean, the weather conditions were pretty poor. People have to remember that there were poor weather conditions.
We had it behind us in the second half.
John, that I wanted to go back to, that you just mentioned their fitness. I just noticed, and the English sides, a lot of them were leading at half time in their matches and then faded in the second half of the game.
A lot of them had the wind against them in the
that's
second
true.
half.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate they might have the wind, but at the same time, it's not always about the
it's
conditions.
Another type of wind you're talking about. They're running out of wind.
Exactly, running out a bit of puff. And I think that, perhaps they are a benefit. But I mean, I remember a couple of seasons ago, we played, I think it was it Wasps we played against? No, Northampton in a friendly. And they had, we mentioned it before, they had George North and they had Corbacero playing in an absolutely meaningless friendly in Donnybrook.
They were just back off a Lions tour.
A few weeks after a Lions tour, and they're playing these matches, and it's got to take the toll out of them, you know.
Yeah.
The English clubs have always used the excuse that because of the way that their league is structured, they have to hit the ground running from the get-go,
well,
blah, blah, blah,
you
blah,
know.
blah. They can't afford to peak for Heineken Cup. They can't afford to peak for whereas the Irish players have to peak for the Heineken Cup, then for the Autumn Internationals, then for the Six Nations, where they have to be ready every week. It's actually bullshit.
Well,
Right.
it's a case of priorities, Dave. I mean, Irish teams totally prioritise the Heineken Cup, and English and French teams don't. You know,
I just don't think that English
some of
and
that is down to
I
relegation.
know that French teams for certain don't prioritise fitness. They're extremely unfit, a lot of French teams.
Well, France have kind of gone the way England used to be. I mean, England are not quite such a bosh league anymore, whereas France have become much more of a bosh league. They
But
used
like-
to be a lot more
But
flair
and France
based.
put emphasis on their home victory, so they kind of take every second week off. Not alone just the Heineken Cup.
Mentally,
sometimes.
yeah.
So and they're unfit anyway. French players are unfit. I mean,
Well, they don't have the high intensity games. They do a lot of bashing into each other and not so much.
you can do bashing. You can still be. I mean, O'Gara went over there and he couldn't believe the state of the players he found. Jackman had the same complaint. Even the Welsh players who went over to thing who wouldn't be models of,
Of
week
staying
in
out
week
of
out
chippers.
rugby. Found it hard to believe the state of the players that they were working with. And you'll see that the teams who do well are the teams that have the least French players in them because they're the fittest teams.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought it was interesting because there were so many matches that even not just the Irish English matches, like there was other matches, even like Glasgow against Bath. Bath were held scoreless in the second half of that match. You know,
Yeah.
But you also have to remember, I mean, Glasgow against Bath. Bath are, they're going okay at the moment, but they are a mid-table English side in the general run of things.
well, they're not
And
now. Like Bath are kind of
They're on the up.
they're on an up.
Like I said, they're going
upwardly
well at the
curve.
moment. I mean, they're always on an up
They have a
at
lot
the
of back
beginning of
row
the season,
injuries.
and then they kind of drop off. But Glasgow are the best team in the Pro 12.
This season
Yeah.
on form for sure. Yeah. Well,
So-
Ospreys, maybe they haven't played as many high profile games. They're
It's
the only-
hard to know what Ospreys. I mean,
they're the only
Glasgow
unbeaten team in Europe.
have played a lot of big games. Now they lost to Ulster, but they beat us, and they've looked good, and they gave Bath a lesson. But
great to watch
it's
them.
hard to know across Europe. I mean, the Challenge Cup, for example, I think this year is going to be. They're going to have to revisit that at the end of the season. The Challenge Cup.
French
It's a
teams
joke.
are just not bothering.
There's no reward.
There's nothing to gain from
There's
it.
nothing why would you play in it? I mean, why would you bother? I mean,
Well, like on Thursday night, I think I sat in and watched
I
Gloucester.
did too. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
same
was-
here.
I mean, you'd have more fun going down to watch, the under 15s play.
yeah. There'll be more.
There'd be more of a
commitment.
competitive
Yeah.
match. Yeah. Anyway, like going back to our game, like I thought, I didn't think the result was going to, but I just thought we played in fits and starts, as you say. But one fella who was absolutely outstanding for the 80 minutes, Jamie Heasley,
Oh, yeah.
your boy there. Like he just, I thought there was a ludicrous thread on Leinster fans, but he answered any criticism that he was given for the last few weeks.
I mean, in fairness, it was hard to read that criticism written as it was in crayon. The thing, I mean, the criticism of Heaslip is basically because he doesn't have angry face or show passion and isn't from Munster, basically, and that's where the criticism ends, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
because
do you know-
Jamie Heaslip is the best number 8 in Europe, and I know it's quite meta and whatever to criticise and say, oh no, there's a better number 8 here, Parise is better, or maybe Harry Nordic is better. You put their achievements up beside Jamie Heaslip's achievements, and they're in the penny ante place.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Jamie Heaslip, so I'm a little bit biased. But the guy, he's he's just unbelievable
He's
player.
indestructible.
He's indestructible.
He's won 3 Heineken Cups, a Grand Slam. He's been on 2
He's done
Lions
all that.
tours, all of that.
He will play whatever way you need him to play, and that's the other thing
That's
as well.
what I was about to say. He's a total team guy.
Yeah.
And people say
Totally sacrifices himself for
people
the team.
seem to have a problem with that he switches off from rugby when he leaves the ground, and that he's not a big rugby fan outside. It's because he's so intensely into it when he is playing and when he is training and when he is doing his video reviews, and the guy is the absolute model professional, and he likes to portray this attitude of, hey, I'm real laid back. He isn't a bit laid back when you get him into a team environment. The guy is
I think he plays
driven.
like if you go back
professional. He
to
has a-
when he was at his peak, going back to say 09, I would say he was around his absolute peak. We played a different style of rugby.
I don't think that was his peak. I think his peak was actually I don't believe in peaks, but I think that if you're going to pick one period, I think 2012 was actually the high point for me, because that was when it's all right. I mean, it's great for Sean O'Brien to be able to play the way he plays, and for the other guys to play the way they play. But Jamie Heaslip is the guy who enables them.
He's
to play.
the glue.
He's the guy. Without Jamie Heaslip, it's all very well and good for Sean O'Brien to go galloping up the pitch with the ball under his arm. Who wins the next phase?
Yeah,
it's
but
generally Heaslip.
No, but I think that he's more noticeable in the loose going back to 09.
Well, that's because O'Brien wasn't here. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. And when O'Brien was absent from the team again, he reverted back to that 09 style of play that he did. And I thought, again, he was so noticeable in the loose and with the ball. I thought he was exceptional.
He's very. He has this kind of a style as well in contact where it's a bit like Darcy or something, where it's like he does jiu-jitsu moves in contact with guys. He runs at them at a certain angle and shifts just as he hits contact, rather than someone like O'Brien who tries to power their way through, or Ruddock or something like that.
He runs around them rather than over them.
What is it the phrase even after he uses when a guy's coming into contact, he tries to put something on it.
Yeah, even after he's hit the guy, he's changing direction. And I think that's what Darcy does as well. He seems to be able to.
You can see it. You'll see it.
Use
in
the guy's momentum against
him.
They
do it when they do the replay and they show him coming into Launchbury to take contact. And what he does, he kind of just gets that little yard, or not even a yard, maybe a foot outside Launchbury. So he takes the contact on his own. Yeah. On his own terms. And that's the thing about Heaslip. Heaslip will play any way you want him to play. If you want him to be the big bruising, glory hunting ball carrier, he'll do that for you. If you want him to play the role that sweeps up behind, he'll do that for you. He'll do whatever you want. It's like Beatles albums, right? Everybody wants Jamie Heaslip to be Sergeant Pepper in the Lonely Hearts Club Band. But here's the truth. That's not the best Beatles album. The best Beatles album is maybe Revolver, maybe it's Rubber Soul, maybe it's the White Album. But Jamie Heaslip isn't, just because he's not been Sergeant Pepper in his Lonely Hearts Club Band all the time, people think that he doesn't, put it in. But it's not the case. There's subtlety to the way he plays.
Have you ever seen anybody to handle bad scrum ball or bad any ball?
But that's because he's a natural number 8. I mean, there's been... I remember seeing Dennis Leamy played at number 8 for Munster against Claremont. Do you remember that time when actually Tony Park has been redeveloped?
When he bounced the ball.
Now, when you're a number 8, you do a bunny. If the pitch is muddy and it's mucky and you're trying to bring the ball with you, you bunny hop the ball. You don't do it on a perfect pitch like Thomond Park. The only reason you do that is because you can't control the ball properly.
I haven't seen too many people doing it since.
But Dennis Leamy was actually a very good He wasn't a natural number 8, but because he was a good footballer, he made the best of the position.
Yeah.
Right. But Heaslip is a natural number 8, and you can see that just even when our scrum, those occasions when our scrum was in trouble on Sunday. Yeah. The way Heaslip got the ball away every single time. Every time it was just. It's
Willie Duggan-esque.
And sometimes when you see him getting the ball thrown to him when he's standing still, and it's just shit ball. He can manage to, whatever he does with it, he might not make a whole lot of yards, but he'll turn bad ball into good ball.
Why don't we have a look at him setting up Fanning's first try?
Yeah, something to stop us gushing.
No, it's great play, great
carry. He's very intelligent there that he just didn't fling a ball out.
Did you see who he just went through there?
Yeah, it was Launchbury. But that was a good play because, I mean, apart from the carry from Heaslip, the clean out is very, very good. It's very quick. Means that Redden can speed the ball away, and apparently Fanning gives Goppert the word that he wants to kick through, and Goppert put it on sixpence for him.
Yeah. Goppert had a reasonably good game, actually. After his... he didn't do anything too terrible.
And then you can see him just get outside Launchbury to get take the tackle on his own terms.
And he did a few decent things, and that was one of them there. He put in another lovely kick near the end to touch. But he did just near the end as well. He did a kind of a chip kick.
Yeah,
put it too long, and
Yeah, that was a weird one because it's kind of what you're supposed to do against the blitz defense because Wasps were coming up really hard. So that what what they say you should always do is chip over the top. But
he just chipped it too long.
He just chipped it too long,
and it went straight into someone's hands, and it was
Sometimes
gone.
I think he has
the moment was gone.
Tendency to kick a little bit too often, and especially kick ball that there's no need to kick.
Yeah.
Like I think he kicks too early in the set of phases. And why don't we look at Fanning's second?
Yep, and another good example of a good play from Heaslip, actually, because he's the guy who speeds the ball up. It should be mentioned that the reason we have the ball at this point is because of Devon Toner getting a block down and then a great carry.
One-handed block down, it was deadly.
We'll see it in the replay. But again, this is another one. I mean, there's Heaslip there. He's clean. He's clearing out at that stage, but he'll come back and he's the guy who puts a big hit there.
The guys are just flying.
Yeah, they really begin to put the hits in.
And Cronin had some lovely carries. He was on the end.
A few yips out on his throat.
Yeah.
But the conditions were.
Hooking is coming on though, you know. You get them all going.
He would have been done for foot up.
Watch Heaslip here and watch the clean out. The clean out is the key on this. Coming up now. It's absolutely vicious. Watch. Bang. Darcy and Toner.
Yeah. And there's Fanning.
Yeah.
In for a second. But, like, there's a guy, you know, that's
must be a
dreamland.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you'd have told him a year ago that he was going to play in the first European Cup game for Leinster and he was going to score 66% of the tries.
Good hand in there.
You know, it's just fantasy stuff, and it's great to see him do it. He's obviously a really hard worker. You know, he maximises every bit of his talent. You know.
Dev, I thought had a good game. I was very impressed actually with Kane Douglas when he came on. He was.
Yeah, I think he should have started.
He was really disruptive on their line-out ball and on their mauls. He was very disruptive.
I hope he starts next week.
Yeah, same here
with Toner. Well, from the minute he came in, I've thought that you know, wouldn't he make a great pair with Toner?
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're both over 2 meters tall and they could complement each other.
And we show Ryan's try, which was
disputed.
Yeah, well, from one angle it didn't look like he made it, and the other one I thought he did.
Yeah, it's gonna run that one, all right, but we'll take it.
Redden did well here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked
great burst from Cronin.
There we go again. Yeah, a little bit of a burst in both tries. That was a great. He made 20, 30 yards there, you know. And somebody said that Ryan had to make this because there was a few men outside him.
Well, again, he put his head down and went for it.
He did.
We'll see.
Well, Dave, you slag him off sometimes for having to find somebody to run into when he gets the ball.
Yeah, I do. But I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, he doesn't do that there. He does, but you've also got to give a player a responsibility. A player has to take responsibility for his actions, both if they come off positively, which they did in this case, and if they come off negatively, which they have in the past.
He saw a prop standing there.
Yeah, and he thought, I can take that guy.
Well, if you're running from 7 or 8 meters out and you're running at a prop, there's a good chance you're going to get by him. You know, like they're not the best tacklers in the world, generally.
I will say that to Keane Healy.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. And you've got, I mean, you can say yes. If he hadn't made it, the rest of the guys would have killed him. But you know, you got to make that decision yourself, kind of thing.
He made it by the skin of his teeth. Yeah. There was a blade of grass.
Job, yeah.
I never in doubt.
Well, the crowd weren't too pleased with the TMO looking at it forever and ever, but I have to say I'm very glad that he took the time to give us the try, rather than stopping a few times earlier and saying no try or there's doubt or favour the attacking team. Good man, Derek Bevan.
Derek Bevan, the old blast in the past there.
Yeah.
It's unusual to see him because he's normally paired with Nigel Owens, actually.
Oh, a big sigh of relief there from Dominic.
Gab away in the old Welsh language.
Yeah. So, boys, what did you think of the tournament itself in its first weekend of the new concept of the European Cup?
Here comes the new boss, same as the old boss, to quote, to paraphrase the Who. I mean, I was saying, I don't know if Irish people have engaged with it as much as they have in the past, for various different reasons, you know, but you look at the first weekend, you had big Anglo-Irish clashes, you had a really big Anglo-French clash, you had a last-minute dropper from Munster. I mean, pick a year from 2000 up to this year, and it could be any of those years, you know. Is it really all that different? They say it's going to be more difficult to get out of because it's more elite. We'll see at the end of the season.
There was less one-sided results. Like the only one that was a bit of a whitewash was Treviso's hammering by Ospreys.
And you'd have to say, really, you know, is the rule that a team from each nation in the in the Guinness Pro 12 has to qualify. Is that justified? You know, when you see
There's two
Treviso
sides of the
getting
argument,
hammered.
though, isn't there?
Well,
One is to grow the game, but then
one
Yeah.
is to grow the game, but you know, Treviso have been and other Italian teams have been in the Heineken Cup for years and years and years, and they're still getting hammered. You know, there comes a time when you have to
there's
go
an element where yes, but you also have a duty of
stick
care.
him in the Amlin. You know,
You also have a duty of care to the game in various different countries. I mean, you can't stick anyone in the Amlin now. The problem is trying to fix the Amlin.
But,
at
but
this
you could
stage.
say the same, or you might have said the same about Scottish clubs, say 2 or 3 years ago. And look at one of the best teams. You know, their result
That's
against
true.
Bath last weekend was probably the result of the round. Because I don't think people would have really said, God, that's going to be an emphatic victory for Glasgow.
well, you know, we were all saying it, but I wouldn't say you'd find too many people in England that were saying it,
They don't watch it.
or anywhere else.
I mean, in England as well, they don't have much of it. They don't pay much
Respect.
attention to, or much respect for teams from Northern Britain.
Or from people who play in the Pro 12 generally.
Yeah.
Don't you know? Maybe us Irish teams because we've been bloody on their nose in
Yeah.
Europe for a few years.
But at the end of the day, I mean, we don't know. It's too early. Is it any better? Is it any worse?
Like one thing that I was surprised at was the Quins Cast match on Friday. You know, Cast are, I think they're 9th in the top 14. Quins probably mid-table, but even though I think the match was 25-9 at the
It was
end,
close enough,
it was
yeah,
12-6 or 12-9 with an hour gone. So
Yeah.
it was pretty much in the
It
balance.
wasn't. The game didn't. The scoreline doesn't reflect how close the
Exactly,
game
yeah.
was.
And
Now,
and you know, a couple of seasons ago, you was on. This is definitely an ideal situation where a French club is just going to throw their hat at it, concentrate on their league, try and get out of the last few places, and move with their form up, and not really care about the
well,
European
the French
Cup.
clubs will always put effort into their
the
first game.
first couple of games,
They've always
yeah,
done that. I mean,
to see what happens.
to see what happens. And Castra are actually a team who, you know, they could have. They were out of it when they played us last season. They still
Yeah.
managed to pull up.
Well,
so
actually,
they're actually a better team than
when
probably
we
a bad example to use.
well, when we play them next weekend, the following week they're playing against
Yeah.
Brive. They're playing Brive away to Brive, who are 10th and they're 9th in the league. So it's kind of a must win for them.
and there seems to be a little bit of friction within the camp.
Yeah,
Chavez has had the captaincy
captaincy
stripped off
taken
him.
off him. Yeah,
You question how many of their players they'll risk. I mean, they didn't risk the likes of Lamarat, for example.
he hasn't played in a few weeks. I
No,
hear.
maybe that's another issue. He's a very good player. I highly
He
regard.
made us look silly
He made
last
us
year.
look bad last year.
Yeah.
So, be
And it was
interesting.
only for there was a couple of sin binnings in the match, or there was a dodgy try and there was a sin binning.
Mm.
And I thought that, and like I think the match in Cast last January was 22 to them, 29 to us,
That's right.
but they were ahead of us they scored 2 very early tries.
14-0.
I think
But-
that after this,
but I
it's just too early to tell because at the moment everybody has a chance, right? After 2 rounds, when somebody, I mean, you saw, for example, Dragons gave Stade Francais an absolute pelting
Yeah.
in the Challenge Cup, right? Now, that's a team that from the get-go has no interest in playing in it. I mean, because I don't think the Challenge Cup has anything real to offer French clubs.
A lot
No.
of them didn't register their players for it.
Yeah, so we'll see what the attitude of other French clubs who have dropped into a similar position to Stade Francais in terms of their ambition towards the senior competition.
Well, Stade Francais were trying to win the Amlin a few years ago
Yeah.
because it was going to get them into the Heineken Cup.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
gone
year
now.
they lost out to Wasps in a playoff to get that. Would have had them in the Heineken Cup. So you know maybe.
and very narrowly, lost out very narrowly
Yeah.
as well. So
Wasps, though, you'd have to say, I think they're a team on the up. I mean, they really fell from the time Redden was playing for them in 2007 when they won the Heineken Cup. They just fell, you know, mainly due to money, but they just fell from
They were narrow.
right through the floor.
They were an hour from going back.
I think they're doomed as a club. I think that club's finished.
Well,
Were you talking to
the
any
Coventry
of the, were you
thing.
talking to any of their fans the weekend?
No, it
Not
wasn't
really. There wasn't a
actually.
huge
No.
number over. Well, there wasn't a huge number over our side. They were all over your side of the
There
ground.
were actually, yeah, there were a fair few around me, but I didn't get talking to them.
It'd be interesting to know whether they're going to do a 200 mile round trip.
Well, the one guy that I spoke to said, yeah,
Right.
that he was, and that he actually lives in Brighton,
Okay.
and he was travelling so far that the extra distance didn't bother.
In 2 years' time, Derek Richardson will buy Coventry City Football Club, and that'll be the end of
it.
Wasps.
Yeah,
That'll be the end of his interest. They'll be playing in London Senior 2 in Acton. I mean that it's sad to say, but they're so foolish that they can't. They've been used as a stalking horse to get what he wants is a football club that he can take. He's got the only football club. If he gets Coventry, Coventry's a nice sized city. It's big enough to support one Premiership club and do so well, like Swansea, for example. Right? He gets that team, puts money into it, gets into the Premiership. That's all he's looking for. And the reason he wants Wasps is because he wants the stadium and he wants to have an excuse, a tenant to move into it.
Well,
Maybe so.
who knows?
Now, that might be one of my conspiracy theories, but
Yeah, I just
Number
think
57.
yeah.
I just think that they seem to be on the up from where they were. Like if you look at
As things stand, they certainly are. I mean, that's a
Last-
much better club than they were 12 months or
well, exactly.
24 months ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as you said,
That was
we
my
will know
point.
more actually at the end of the next
Yeah.
round. Like they're playing Quins at the weekend, so you know it's kind of a must-win match for Wasps. If they lose that game, then it's at home.
They're
but
gone,
if they're
yeah.
pretty much gone.
Is that their last game in Adams Park? The last European match?
Probably is, yeah.
it's possible that they'll play the December one there, but they're not sure.
So who's impressed you so far? Like it seems to have stood out for me. I think where Glasgow, Toulon look very strong, and Sarries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sarries look strong.
I was about to say that's the three teams that got the bonus point,
Yeah.
but it's not because Toulon didn't get a bonus point. The
Sarries look strong.
Ospreys were doing
Claremont
pretty
didn't
well.
look too weak either.
No.
It was just a very bad error at the end.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
gifted them. I thought the funniest moment of the weekend was the
Rest Metro against Saints.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he was through for a try under the sticks and dropped the ball.
Yeah,
His hamstring.
His hamstring went, I think, before he dropped
There's
the ball.
there's two schools of thought. I know that you're of the same school of thought of Munster. His hamstring went before he dropped the
Yeah,
ball.
you could see it in his face.
I don't think so. I think that what you saw on his face was just a grimace while running. Then he dropped the ball, but then his hamstring went. Now there's no denying that his hamstring went, but I think he dropped the ball for it. Doesn't matter anyway. Ball dropped, hamstring gone. Laughter of the general public.
Northampton basically.
But the funnier thing was not funnier, but the more amusing from a game management point of view was the way that they coughed up at the very end, which cost them the
cost
losing
him a
bonus point.
Yeah.
And another very bizarre.
How good was
incident.
Johnny Sexton, by the way?
Yeah, he was running the show.
Yeah.
and that's
Wasn't
his
he?
first
Yeah,
game.
reminded me of
That's his
back in his
first
Leinster
game
game,
back.
in that stadium actually,
Yeah.
shouting at everyone. But one of the weirdest things I saw the weekend was Paddy Jackson missing or getting a conversion
Blocked.
locked down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, but I've been watching rugby for 30 odd years, and I have never seen that happen.
No, I've seen it happen, but I just can't think where. I have
It was
seen
quoted
it happen
in the
before.
commentary. One of the commentators mentioned, "Oh, that happened quite
I'm pretty
recently." Can't remember
It's
where.
about the only thing that didn't happen to Arwell Thomas that time he played for Wales against Ireland. Do you remember that? Because everything else he did was a disaster.
Something actually, I know we're drifting back and forth on this, but something that somebody said to me about our game was that should we have taken a drop goal toward in the last maybe between the last 20 and 10 minutes
To deny them.
just to deny them and to put the game safe, so as if they did get a breakout we could have
It was 2 scores.
it was 2 scores, and I thought that was a very good point. I didn't think of it myself.
I think at that time the focus was entirely on getting that fourth bonus, that
Yeah,
fourth try and the
it was,
bonus point.
it was.
And it was there. It was there for us if we could have gone on. I
Certainly
mean, we
was.
had the time, we had the opportunity.
You had at least 4 goes at it.
In fairness to
2 of
us,
them with
this
Kirshner.
is the thing. This is the thing. We say this every year. Every year, I've been saying it ever since I've been watching rugby. You're playing a team who've haven't scored in the second half. There's 10 minutes left. They've seen their lead completely erased.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Scottish, Welsh, French team.
They throw in the
They
towel.
throw in the towel. English teams don't do that. They just never throw in the towel.
They defended very well, and
Yeah.
towards the end, they
But I thought saying
threw everything
Kirshner
in.
had an opportunity to
Yeah,
get
2.
at least 2. But I did think that it was more him making a monumental mistake rather than their brilliant defence denying him.
Well, there's kind of 3 arguments. One, that he made a mistake. 1, that Madigan killed his space. And 3 was that the Wasp players held their space. Each man marked the correct man correctly, and just meant there was no space there in the first place. So I mean, you could make a fair argument for all 3, depending on what point of view you wanted to take.
So the other games, Munster had a legendary get out of jail drop goal.
Well, that was a bizarre game as well. I mean, it was
weird.
It was like the proverbial
Wind.
roller coaster.
Replacement ref, the whole lot.
Actually, that ref broke both his legs in the game.
That's right. Yeah, he's just back.
previously, and that was him just back. He's not
Yeah.
a very lucky chap.
Yeah.
How do you break both your legs as a referee?
I'm no, I think
It wasn't easy.
Didn't he fall backwards over a player or something? He was walking
That's
backwards
right,
and the player was on. It felt broke. But anyway, and then now he did that, and then the replacement guy, both saved
Kinda
and
changed
damned Munster. By he saved them by not allowing the try, but then he sent off Tommy O'Donnell, who didn't deserve to be sent off.
Axel
or
Foley.
sin
Axel Foley wasn't too impressed with his refereeing of the breakdown and how he wasn't allowing a competition for. And I thought he had a bit of a point, to be honest with you. But it was good to see them do the old Rog emulation. Be good for Keighley.
The standard
Maybe it got him into the Autumn International squad ahead of Paddy
the standard
Jackson.
team they do that get out of jail against is dropping year on year, isn't it?
That's true.
I mean, next year they'll be doing it against I don't know.
Treviso.
No, they'll be doing it against Zebre or something, and they'll write a play about that Italian job.
Didn't we not do that once?
We did actually. We most certainly
We
did.
did.
But I mean, Sale are no great shakes.
No.
But that's not Munster's problem. It's a win away from
Finished
home.
a place above Wasps last season.
Yeah.
It was the only away win of the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show, it's like the old tournament, the away wins are like hens
Are
to
the
Oh
Or
yeah,
premium.
yeah.
Well, I just think that Ulster as well, like
If
They were-
Pinar
they
plays
kind
that
of shot
game, Ulster
themselves.
win. There's no
Of
question.
course they did.
No
they
question.
would, yeah. They kind of shot themselves in the foot between Paddy Jackson missing the conversion, between a few little moments of the game that the game turned on. They could easily have had a draw instead of a or
Well, you think about it, if they got the conversion, like the match finished 25-18. So if they'd have got the conversion, if he had got a penalty, he would have left him with like Keighley,
dropper.
an opportunity for a dropper.
And they were pretty much charged the light brigade at the end. I think
But-
also were the better team. I mean,
Like they gifted them a couple
if
of...
Pinar plays,
of course.
Paul Marshall doesn't do that stupid bloody intercept. So there's another 7 points.
Yeah, well, and Leicester, it was the time to get Leicester. They're in disarray, and Tuolagi didn't even last. He barely lasted a few minutes in the game.
It's an absolute killer when you've been out for a long time, you come back and then you get. I feel sorry for the guy actually.
And Ulster are in a bit of a tricky situation now themselves. Obviously, they've lost. They played Toulon in Ravenhill.
I was about to say, I don't fancy Munster or Ulster's game next week. They're both really up against. I know Munster won and they won away, but that'd be like if Ulster had gone to the Scarlets this week and won. It's the same.
Well, I
same
think
guy.
there's a slightly different dynamic in the two groups in that
There is.
Munster facing Saracens, who are an English team, and English teams, pretty much have a mixed reaction to Thome Park, right? We've seen what happened to Saracens before, and they absolutely crumbled under the pressure before. But the other side about English teams is English teams will try away from home, whereas Ulster situation, they've got Toulon coming. Now Toulon are a very good side.
Absolutely.
Is that there is a mentality in French rugby that you don't bother your arse away from home. So there's a slightly
but there's
different
not that many
dynamic
French
there.
players in
Well,
the team.
that's what I said before, and to visit that, Toulon are the most successful team in France because they have the fewest French players.
So they were beaten at home last
Most
season against
money.
Cardiff. So
They were.
It's not.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't fancy either of their jobs. And
I would
know
say
we're
that
going
Ulster's group will come down to which team takes the most losing bonus points from their away fixtures.
Possibly. Yeah, I to be honest, I'd fancy.
I'd fancy Munster more than I would
to
Ulster.
Ulster,
to be honest
just at
with
the
you.
moment because there's.
Oh, against as in
Yeah.
Saracens against. Oh, I'd fancy Munster. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that they're on a high.
Yeah.
Ulster obviously aren't. They were beaten by in a game that they probably could have, should have won. They're missing their most influential player, whereas Munster. I just think they have the hex over some English teams, and they just have this mythical.
Saracens are one of those teams.
Munster's group are
I think
definitely.
Saracens
It's definitely harder.
are mentally weak. Anyway.
Seemed to manage to destroy Claremont in the semi
Oh,
final
well done.
last year.
Claremont, those renowned
Chokers.
bulwarks of mental health. I mean, I think Saracens are mentally weak. I think whether it's because of their complete lack of soul, I don't know, but you know, because whenever Saracens pull into a town, all the dogs start barking all through the night.
Is that because of the music? Stand up for the Saracens?
No, it's because
don't have a soul.
dogs can recognise the complete lack of animus within their soulless, empty shells.
Surely dogs would really like the wolf pack, Dave.
No, they don't. Dogs don't like wolves, and they don't like meaningless marketing slogans either.
I think
I think Munster will beat Saracens because I think that Saracens are a better rugby team, for whatever that's worth, than Munster at this point in time. But I think Munster will beat them because Saracens won't fancy it and Munster will.
Well, I think that Leicester are a much crapper team than either Claremont or Saracens.
Yeah.
So while Toulon are a better team than Claremont or Saracens, in a lot of ways you'd say Munster's group is the harder.
Munster's group I think is the hardest group of all the groups. I definitely think so.
So
it's got 3 semi-finalists.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, the group of death. That's the group of, you know, getting kidnapped and chopped up into tiny little pieces by a axe wielding maniac, let alone death.
Okay.
So anyway, we play Cast next weekend. Any guys back that could be, you know, injury lads coming back, like Luke Fitzgerald, I saw him doing some stretches on the side of the pitch, but he didn't make it on the pitch. I was surprised.
I think Luke was there partly as a making up the numbers exercise that, like, if somebody gets stretchered off, we'll put on Luke Fitzgerald, otherwise we probably won't. And if you look at Mick McGrath was on the bench. It would have been interesting to see if they had to send somebody on. Would they have sent Luke?
Well, they
had
Luke.
He was stretching on the side.
They had him stretched.
Now maybe he was just.
No, they had him stripped twice, ready to come on.
Was it a PR exercise?
No, he was all but ready to come on, except for last minute decision not to bring him on.
I'd love to see him on the pitch next week. It seems like we'll definitely have Carney and Ross back. There's an outside chance we might see Jennings even on the bench. Maybe not, but that's a possibility, shall we say. Matt O'Connor last week said that he was going to use Ben Teo in one of the 2 games in the European, so you could see him on the bench. Could be
I'm
bluster.
surprised that they didn't throw him in against Jersey for the A's.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
I think it was
I
under consideration.
I mean, to a certain extent, that was an element in my going along was to see if he did.
Because I remember about 2 or 3 years ago that they chucked Brad Thorne in against
Connacht,
and, you know,
that wasn't a competitive game though, and it wouldn't have been too fair on Jersey to see him rocking up and warming up on the bench.
A lot of the reason why that game against Connacht was organised was to have Brad Thorne give him a knockout. You know,
so. You know, I would feel a lot more confident going to France with Carney and Ross back, and the team with that bit of BJ's out of a win under the belt, that they're going with something to fight for now. You know, and I've 2 or 3 people have said to me, "Oh, sure, they don't need to win in Cast." Oh my God! I hope they don't feel that way, because they absolutely need to win.
An away win is, like you were saying, they're rarer than hen's teeth, but they're precious like diamonds.
Yeah, and
they really are away wins.
It's cha-ching. It's home quarter final.
Yeah, it's a good time to meet Cast because they seem to be in a bit of disarray. So if they just do rest a player or 2, I'd be, you know, they're big players, Tales, Lamarat, and Cockett. If they're resting any of them, hooray! You know, we're in with a chance.
Particularly the halfbacks.
Well, halfbacks in any team are, you know, the most important players. You can have the best pack in the world and the swiftest back line in the world. If you can't link them up,
the 2 of them, Tales and Cockett, as a pair and individually, are the best in their position in France, who are French-ish.
French qualified.
French qualified. So no, away wins are like gold. Like so worth so much. You look back at our successful Heineken Cup campaigns, and they're based around, you know, away wins and away. Really, in the case against Claremont, superb performances away from home.
The other people that are bubbling under are Dave Carney, McFadden probably a little bit longer, Jordy Murphy probably
Dave
a
Carney
little bit
wasn't
longer.
picked in the Irish squad.
No, but sure, he's no game time under his belt.
No, but like they kind of mentioned that he wasn't considered because he was injured. So I think he might be further away than next week.
Oh, I don't think he's going to be next week, but I'm just saying these are players that, you know, after next week there's a game against Edinburgh, and then you have 3 weeks off for the autumn international. So, you know, anyone who doesn't come back in the next week or two has a good long break, and I'd suggest that probably Dave Kearney, Geordie Murphy and Fergus McFadden will all be rocking up for the Ospreys game.
I don't think they'd be
no, not before. I'm saying after the All Internationals, that the three of them come into the mix.
For next Sunday, I mean,
definitely
it's definitely the three you mentioned, plus Tio are the four that might might come into contention. Certainly, I'm not sure about Geno, but actually, I'll tell you one thing. I've never been overly confident, or certainly at the beginning of the season as things progress, I wasn't overly confident with Ryan at 7. But as the season has progressed and I've watched more of him and I've seen him, I'm going to say he's improved, but he probably isn't. It's just that my appreciation of what he's doing has sharpened.
Well, it's also he's got a run of games.
Yeah, I think he's looked good.
Herr Schmidt has given him the nod as well.
Yeah, I think he's looked good.
We're missing Shane Jennings and Leo Cullen, who are two serious on the floor operators.
Yeah.
And have you noticed our breakdown? Like, you've still got Jamie Heaslip and all that, but our breakdown work hasn't been of the highest order.
No.
And obviously Sean O'Brien as well. You're missing. So
and Brian O'Driscoll.
Brian O'Driscoll, that famous number 7. You've basically got Dominic Ryan. I think we've said this before. Dominic Ryan, Rhys Ruddock, and Jamie Heaslip are all about the same height. They're all big, powerful guys. They're all kind of, none of them is a specialist 7. And Dominic Ryan is a phenomenal tackler. He's great in contact. He's, getting to the floor quickly at 6'4" is not going to be.
It was interesting that came up in the commentary.
They have to divvy up the open side role between the three of them. The deck work.
One thing that came up in the commentary about Dominic Ryan was that he had scored on his first European Cup match 3 years ago, and he hadn't played for 3 years. Like it's, like that should be. It's just such a strange phenomenon that he's got this guy and he comes back in again and scores again.
Between injury and the stranglehold that,
like, it just goes to strength and depth in the back.
I mean, Jennings and O'Brien had have had a stranglehold on the position. Then when last season when there was injuries, Geordie Murphy was played in this fixture last year and played very well actually. So he's been unlucky in that regard. Plus, he's been seen more as a 6 than a 7.
He is more of a 6 than a 7,
and he is.
But he's behind Ruddock and possibly Kevin McLaughlin, possibly
who took part in the pre-match warm-up, which means he's
there or thereabouts.
Generally there or thereabouts. He might come into the reckoning for next Sunday. Although I think Ruddock is the man now.
He seems to be the man in possession, absolutely, and rightly so. He had a quiet enough game the weekend. I mean, I wouldn't say he played badly, but he was doing a lot of the donkey work perhaps, but he wasn't doing that much carrying.
I think a lot of the problem is that because he's the one, if you like,
Jamie had it all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think Jamie benefited from the fact that a lot of for in the games coming up to this, the guy who was seen as their kind of go-to ball carrier in the back row was actually Ruddock, so he'd be the guy they were expecting to carry. Maybe he was a bit more tightly marked. I think he did okay.
Sean Cronin has been the man doing the carrying.
Sean, he when he first came in, his line-out work needed work, and it went a bit back at the weekend. But again, it was hard. I mean, it was tough conditions to throw into.
Yeah, it was
some of the
windy,
wind. The wind was a lot stronger than people think it was. I mean, it was very strong out there in the pitch.
So anyway, like obviously the international squad was announced as well at the weekend, or Thursday, just today, and there's 13 Leinster guys in the 37-man squad. But there's a few notable names in the squad, and like I think the two that stand out for me are Jared Payne and Nathan White. They're just qualified. I'm just wondering, like, what your thoughts are. Like, and there's 2 more other guys. There's Rodney Ayew, and there's
he's already capped though.
I know he's already capped, and then there's Richard Strauss as well, who's capped too. But there's 4 out of 37 who are, that have qualified through residency. What's your views? Do you agree with that policy or necessary evil? Or
I'm not so sure I agree with the policy, but I totally agree that if it's the rules, then let's bloody use them. I don't think that Ireland should stand apart from the rest of the world and say, well, we're not going to do that. If England are doing it, then let's do it as well. Perhaps there's an argument to change the rules slightly so the residency takes a bit longer. But having said that, an average rugby career is 6 years. So
if you have residency of 5 years, I mean,
if you make it 4 or 5 years, then
you can't. That actually doesn't work. I mean, We've always had this. People think this is some new kind of thing, but we've always had this. Players have always switched countries.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it was a farce now. I mean, I saw...
It's a farce. It's a farce now. It was a farce with Brian Smith. It was a farce.
Brian Smith.
It was a farce with Jamie Salmon. It was a farce with the Leslie brothers. It's not a farce
but
now. It's the opposite.
I was watching something on Sky the other morning, and they actually had Brian Smith 6 caps for Australia, and I forgot about him actually. But yeah, I know, and it was a farce. And like,
I think now it's more controlled.
There are, but like I think there's what's actually happening now is because there's people are brought over specifically with no kind of like when Brian Smith, you know, he did. I think he went to Wales or Scotland first and said, actually, I have a granny, and they told him to F off. And then he came to Ireland and said, I have another granny, and she's Irish. But like at least now, like just there are fellas coming over here who have no Irish blood in them, and they just.
I think traditionally we've always.
Does it matter though?
The qualification has always happened after the event. The guys come over here, and then after a while, it's like, oh Jesus, he's Irish qualified now. Let's pick him. Whereas now it's like we're bringing guys over. Yeah. For the express purpose of qualifying. But the thing is, I mean,
I think that's possibly the biggest downside of the current rules.
Like, do you remember the
project player?
The flanker for Ulster that when they won the European Cup, I can't remember his name now. He was a New Zealander, and he went on to Andy Ward. Yeah, sorry. Andy Ward moved over here, met an Irish girl, settled down.
Played for years for Ballynahinch before he even got capped.
Exactly, and then got capped.
Yeah.
You know, because he kind of made his home here. Whereas the other fellas coming over for a professional reason.
Now we would have brought Andy Ward over for the express purpose of getting capped, and that's a different thing.
That's a different thing. When you look at somebody like Thomas Waldrom, for example, who came to England, came to play for Leicester, when he got there, discovered that his granny happened to be born in England. You know, so in other words, he'd grown up his whole life without a thought of having any English heritage, and then discovered belatedly that he did have some. What's the difference? Like, because he could play for England straight away. So what's the difference between a guy like that and then a guy who's had to actually live in the country for 3 years and play his rugby? And at least, like Richard Strauss,
the argument is that the guy who's come over here and qualified through residency has, you know, been here for a couple of years, has made a real contribution to to society through sport and also, you know, through the exchequer.
Whereas I don't somebody fault the guy who's done that. I fault the system that hunts out the project players.
You've always got, and you've also got it ties into, you know, the fairly tenuous ideas of what makes somebody from some country. I mean, why is somebody more Irish than others? Why is somebody more English than somebody else?
Totally arbitrary.
It is an arbitrary kind of thing.
And you can't, unless you're going to have a committee of 28 committed fans who are going to interview the man and decide
and check their
exactly how committed he is.
How good is their angry face?
Exactly. It's bullshit, really.
You have a chart with a series of Peter O'Mahony's faces, and if you don't get over 4 Peter O'Mahony's, you don't qualify because you're not passionate enough.
That sounds like a good barometer.
You're not angry enough. I mean, there's guys who have, like you say, who have come out. Like Nathan White has been a great servant to rugby in Ireland. Maybe not Irish rugby, but rugby in Ireland. I mean, he was very good for us. He was a key member in a team that was very successful in Ireland, which promoted the game within our area, and, you know, raised important tax revenues and etc. etc. Then went to Connacht, which was kind of a development situation. Was good for them as captain Connacht. You know, and is a very good player. I mean, in terms of merit, he'd certainly be with. If there was no kind of residency qualification, if all you had to do was play in the country, you'd pick Nathan White because he's been very good. And we've seen him up close. We know what a good player he is.
Captain in the final
of the ITM,
the year he left, the year he joined us. So, you know,
so I mean,
guy. He was a shoe-in. Like, considering our lack of resources at tight head, and I know they've improved in the last couple of years, but we're still lacking ready to go tight heads, and he's a man who slots in there. I mean, if Mike Ross slips in the shower and Marty Moore doesn't get back in time for the Six Nations, who are you gonna call?
Michael Bent.
Well, you know, don't be slagging him off. He did a good game the other night.
I mean, you look at guys who've made a contribution to Irish rugby through parentage, like, you know, Kevin Maggs. Did anyone care more for Ireland than Kevin Maggs? Simon Gagan. The Easterbees, you know, a lot of guys made a significant contribution, but their contribution was through an accident of birth, to a certain extent. Isaac Boss, who's a player, you know how much I admire Isaac Boss. His contribution to Ireland is through an accident of birth. Nathan White and Richard Strauss and whoever you're having yourself have had to work to make that contribution to Irish rugby. They had to earn it.
They didn't waltz in.
Yeah, so I think there's arguments to be made in favour and against both sides. So, I'm the situation, the environment exists. We live in this. We live in the real world. We take advantage of it.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating that when in the autumn internationals, when the 4th and the 5th placed teams in World Rugby meet each other, both of them will be coached by former Leinster coaches.
The 2 most recent Leinster coaches, in fact,
Mike Mulligan, Declan Kidney,
Matt Williams
and Gary Ella. Yeah, so good old Czechs. The ARU are skint, right? So, and Czechia is independently wealthy, so that's a marriage
he's
made in
attractive
heaven.
there. The other side of it is that Czechia does not tolerate fools at all, gladly or otherwise, and will want the correct platform in place for him to do his job correctly, which means he's going to pick his guys in all the key positions, and he's going to want somebody who's going to guarantee him that the ARU will not come near him for the next 4 years.
He's also,
and I'm not sure if they're going to do that.
He's also a great man for the mindset and getting the mindset right, and he really works on the mental side of the players. And you know, that Aussie team for the World Cup, if it gets a bit of a run and a bit of belief, could be another in the group with England
the problem
and Wales.
that Aussie team is that they do have a mental side.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing the story. I just heard Matt Williams been interviewed about it.
That's right, yeah.
And it was a bizarre one, like that Curtly Beale just turned up in the wrong shirt. Yeah. That's how it started.
Yeah, she pulled him aside because she was the team manager, and Matt Williams is also saying that a mate of his was the team manager and he wasn't replaced. They kind of promoted her into his place, and he just retired because he didn't fancy the travel anymore or whatever. But he got off a plane in the wrong shirt. You know, sponsors are fussy about that type of thing. She had to tell him off. He took the hump, and he sounds like a guy who can take the hump very easily. Between himself and James O'Connor and Quade Cooper, they're real mercurial characters. You know, they're.
I mean, that thing about the wrong shirt. I mean, that's an offence that's common in virtually every professional sport. You receive in your diary for the week what gear you're supposed to wear
on
each day, and you do it.
I could only imagine what.
Well, so what does it look like if 32 Qantas Wallabies get off wearing green and he's wearing gold?
And it ended up with Ewan McKenzie getting accused of having a relationship with her. Now, as far as I know, I don't know if she's married, but as far as I know, Ewan McKenzie's divorced or estranged or separated or whatever. So I suppose there was no impediment. But the thing about it is, he's he prides himself on having such integrity, and you know, I think he was just appalled. I would doubt that he was having an affair with her. The whole vibe I get from the situation is that he just went, you know what?
I don't think it makes a the difference whether he was having an affair with her or not. I mean,
it doesn't. But
it's just the latest in a long litany
I'd say that's what sickened him.
Crimes and misdemeanors by a very small, but we all know the names. If you hear Aussie rugby player ... you're going to pick one of
5.
Yeah, you're going to pick them.
It's a poison. One of the coaches said
and
that
Czechia won't stand for that.
But the environment was toxic. I can't imagine Czechia. Like the stories I've heard from when he was in Leinster was he ruled with an iron fist.
Yeah.
Inside
that's
an
what they need.
iron glove.
That's what they need.
And I can't imagine someone like Curtly Beale is one of the better players playing for them. And there's a few other, you mentioned them, Quade Cooper and a few other boys.
But the thing is, the likes of Curtly Beale, sorry, just to interrupt, when he's with the Waratahs, he never puts a foot out of line.
We don't know.
Well, I'd say if he put a foot out of line, Czech would chop the leg off.
I was about to say he's got Michael Cheika as a coach in the Waratahs, so you know he knows he has to behave himself.
He knows he has to not get caught.
Similarly, Quade Cooper actually was put back on the straight and narrow by Ewan McKenzie when he was Reds coach. You know,
hasn't played for him for a year.
No, but he fell out. He was the one who came up with the toxic remark under Robbie Dean's stewardship. So that's what got him dropped from rugby. And when McKenzie came in, I think he did play him for a couple of games and then decided not to again. So yeah, watch this space.
But I think that was more to do with them wanting to play a more structured game based around Bernard Foley, who was going very well for the Waratahs. Waratahs were the top team at that stage. So I think that was more of a selection thing than anything. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, because I think that Australian Rugby Union seems to me to still be a bit Victorian in its attitudes. It's very seems to be very blazer and tie and old boys, and Czechia. That's not how Czechia operates.
Yeah, he doesn't play that shit. So watch this space.
Yeah. Anyway, boys, thanks a million, and thanks a million for watching. Cheers.